3 years ago, I did a post about 10 tips for not overeating. And today I'm going to go through them all to see if they still hold up. The first tip is 10 minutes before you're about to eat, drink about half a litre of water, which is about 16 ounces for you Americans out there. How do I feel about this now? I think it's a pretty good tip. Most people, they may be actually just thirsty and not actually hungry. So if you have that bit of water before, maybe fill up that stomach a little bit. I would still say that if you are hungry, obviously that water is not going to fill you up. But if you are going to drink it, give it 10 minutes to see how it actually does. Now, tip number 2 was to don't drink fluids while you eat. Now, I think this is a fairly good tip, being that some people I can see start to eat their food and then they just wash it down with some water. If you are drinking fluids while you're eating, you're probably getting it down quicker. And that we know from research that if you eat that little bit slower, you tend to get fuller quicker. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to signal to your stomach that you're full. So the longer that you can make that time that you're eating, the better. All right, tip number 3 is finish your mouthful before putting more food on your fork or spoon. Now, I love this one. I think next time that you eat, just be mindful of when you're actually eating. I see a lot of people, they have their next fork full of food ready to rock and roll before they've even finished their mouthful. So this is a great one, just either putting the fork or spoon down while you're actually having a meal and just being present, then waiting just to scoff it down. It's the same thing with the water. It's like you're trying to just finish your food instead of actually enjoying it. So finish your food before you actually take another bite. All right, tip number 4 is don't watch TV or be on your phone whilst eating. Be present. Now, I love this one of being actual present with your food, tasting the aromas and the feels of it in your mouth. There's a thing called mindfulness eating, which is a really good practice if you want to learn to really enjoy your food and be present with it. I know a lot of you might want to put salt on it. Maybe try the food before you put salt on it. Now, I've struggled with this for a while, as I usually watching YouTube videos, so you may actually be eating right now and watching me on YouTube. But I think it is important sometimes when you are first starting out, just to be present with your food. I know that if you're not tracking or anything, this is such a great tool because it's actually getting you more mindful with the actual food itself and actually enjoying food for what it is, being present and breathing. And you'll probably find that it'll digest a lot better just because you're in more of a parasympathetic state. So I quite enjoy that tip. And tip number 5 is start with your veggies or protein source first, then your carbohydrates. Now, I'm a bit iffy on this one. I think if you get too much into what you should eat first, it may start to cause like an eating disorder or disordered eating at the least. I think if you are putting your plate with a good source of lean protein, with a good handful of veggies and a good carb source, it doesn't really matter what you have first. I think back in the day, I would have thought that maybe if you had your carbs first, it would like spike your insulin and you get hungrier. I don't see that being the case at the moment. I think you would definitely get some disordered eating with this. So I probably don't agree with this so much. I think my thinking was protein and veggies first, fill up on that, and then have carbohydrates. I have said this before at, say, events at Christmas time or when there's a holiday or something like this. That's a great strategy to use. But in every day-to-day life, I would be mindful when you use this strategy. I would only probably say use it, around that holiday season time or a birthday or something like that. Just not every day, because then you might be out at a restaurant just with your loved one and then bread comes out and you're like, no, I can't have the bread. Like, no one wants to be that guy or girl. So yeah, don't do that. And tip number 6 is chew your food twice as much as you usually do. Now, I love this tip, especially when you first start out. Count how many times you're actually chewing your food. You'd be surprised. I think the recommended is like 30 plus, and I doubt you'll be doing that right now. So chew it twice as much as you can. I think what I was trying to get at here was that if you're just chewing a little bit more, it's spreading out the time that you're actually eating your food, and then that gives you more time to fill up. So great tip. And tip number 7 is actually try and enjoy your food. Now, I love this tip. A lot of people, when they eat, maybe after they finish, they don't even realize how good the meal was. The only time that it might be a good meal is when you're sitting down with family and then your mum or dad or whoever, your loved one, has cooked you a lovely roast or one of your favorite meals. You sit down and you actually enjoy it. Imagine if you did that to every single meal. Wouldn't that be enjoyable? Like, food's meant to be enjoyable and like hit those dopamine systems. I know that if you get fast food, and then I know if I get fast food and then I just smash it down because I'm craving something, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, that tasted like garbage. So try and enjoy your food. Even if it is fast food, I would still try and enjoy it for what it is. Tip number 8, if you're full, stop eating. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I still see people saying that they're full and then 5-10 minutes later, they still eat something. If you want to try and lose weight, we like to say 80% full. And if you're trying to gain weight, 120% full. And if you just want to maintain, just go 100% full. A good gauge is if you can dance after you eat, that means you ate the right amount. So I really like this tip. And tip number 9 is go for a 10-minute walk after you eat. Now, I love this tip just for better digestion of your food. Plus, if you're out walking, you're not eating. So I think, like I said just before, that you'll finish eating and then 10 minutes later, you're going to go back to the fridge just because you think that you're still hungry, but your brain to your stomach signal just hasn't gone there yet. So it's probably best that you go for that walk. I love doing this one, especially when I'm dieting. Just gets you moving more, so you get more steps up as well. And if you're with family, it's a great time just to connect. And tip number 10 is don't push your diet on anyone. Now, this is probably my favorite tip. I don't know how it's going to stop you from overeating, but I love that I put this in at the end. Everyone's in their own little journey, and just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. So the best thing that I like to tell people is if someone wants to ask you about a diet, let them ask you. Like, just because you're telling them about it doesn't mean that they're going to do it. So don't go pushing diets on people because they will just rebel and do the absolute opposite. So overall, these tips stood the test of time. 3 years, I know it's not too long, but there was a few things in there that I just slightly changed my mind on. But I think these were some great tips just for not overeating. I would love it if you subscribed if you liked the video. And if you are on a fat loss journey, I think this video about 10 reasons why your weight fluctuate could really help you. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. So 3 years ago, I did a post and it said 10 tips for undereating. No, it didn't.